Prompt-centric AI workflows don't usually fail on the first result. They fail when you need to change something. At first, prompt-centric workflows feels incredibly powerful. You get fast results and the outcome usually looks really good. But then you're getting feedback, you have to do adjustments, and you have to collaborate within your team and achieve consistent results over time. And that's where this workflow starts to feel fragile. In the last video, I talked about why agencies don't just need better prompts, they need systems. And in this video, I want to look at where these kind of prompt-centric workflows break down when teams rely on them. This video isn't about tools or models, it's about when AI is moving from experimentation into real ongoing work. From one-off outputs into processes that are supposed to hold up over time and even scale. And I want to walk through 3 problems that tend to show up when teams are heavily relying on these prompt-centric workflows. These problems are easy to miss early on, but once you start collaborating and trying to iterate and reuse your processes, these problems become obvious. So let's start with the first one. Prompt-centric workflows usually works best on the first output. You write a prompt, you get a result, and honestly, that result often looks quite good. And that's why they are so compelling. However, the problem shows up when you don't want a new result, you want an adjusted one. So let's say that a client comes back to you, and they say that everything looks good, can you just refine it a bit? Or, okay, I like it, keep it, but just adjust the tone. And you go back to your prompt and try to make what seemingly is a small change. However, other things start to change too. Things that you didn't intend to adjust. This happens because in prompt-centric systems, too many decisions are bundled together. So style, composition, mood, and constraints, they all live in the same instruction. And when you're changing a small part of a prompt, you're not just changing that decision, you're reshuffling the entire instruction. At this point, you're starting to lose control of the iteration, because you're not refining, you are regenerating. And every regeneration introduces uncertainty. So you don't know what will stay the same, you don't know what will change, and you cannot reliably predict the outcome. This is a real problem in agency work, because projects don't go from start to finish in one step. They go through feedback and adjustments, multiple iterations, and approvals from different stakeholders.
I think this concept needs a bit more edge to stand out.
Got it, I'll try tweaking it.
And each revision risks to change things that you already have signed off on. So the problem isn't that prompt-centric workflows can't produce good results. The problem is that you can't change one thing without risking disturbing everything. So that is what makes the second revision so difficult, and this already introduces friction in the iteration process. But there is another problem that starts to arise, especially once more than one person is involved in the process. This problem is usually less visible at the beginning, but more dangerous over time. The ideas and the reasoning behind the prompt, they are hidden inside of the prompt. Not documented or structured, just encoded. So this would be basically when working with image production, like working in Photoshop and rasterizing your layers, merging your layers and exporting basically a JPEG. You don't see the individual components, and the same with the video production software, that you have a bunch of components that you could individually adjust before you export and encode a video. So basically you get a really good result, but you don't see the reasoning and the decisions behind it. You might have a prompt that consistently is able to produce good results. A prompt that has been adjusted and tweaked and refined over time. But if someone asks you why does it work, there usually isn't a clear answer. It just does. This becomes a real issue as soon as more than one person is involved. A new team member joins, or a project gets handed over, or someone needs to use your prompt for a slightly different use case. They either reuse your prompt without understanding it, or they start to modify it blindly. This is what you can call hidden knowledge debt. Your workflow depends on knowledge that isn't shared, it isn't structured, and it isn't transferable. It works until it doesn't. In agency and team environments, a workflow needs to survive more than one person. It needs to survive time, handoffs, client changes, and reuse across projects. And when all the logic lives inside of a prompt, the workflow becomes fragile as soon as the original author steps away. The issue isn't that prompt-centric systems are hiding the decisions, but they don't give you a place to make them explicit. And when they are implicit, the teams can't reason about them and repeat them. Now I have talked about two problems that occur when creative teams are using these single prompt-centric workflows. And this is iteration becomes risky and knowledge is hard to share. The third problem that occurs is when the creative teams are trying to scale this type of workflow. Prompt-centric workflows create a very convincing illusion of scale. You generate more content, faster and across more projects. And this feels like progress. But what you're scaling isn't actually the workflow, it's the number of prompts. When teams are saying that they are scaling AI, they may refer to producing more output, more images and videos, more text and more variations. But scaling a process isn't the same as scaling output. A process can be relied on, it can be explained and it can be repeated. Prompt collections can't. In agency work, scale means something specific. It means multiple clients, multiple projects running in parallel, and multiple designers working on these projects. And in prompt-centric systems, this turns into slightly different prompts, small inconsistencies here and there, and quality becomes subjective rather than predictable. Everything doesn't fail at once, but it's starting to drift. As the number of prompts grow, the control goes down, because you can't easily see what is shared and what is different, and which decisions actually matters. So when you want to make a change, you're actually not updating a system. You're trying to navigate in a chaos of prompts and unpredictable changes in order to achieve a cohesive update. So this is the scaling illusion. It feels like you're building momentum, but you're actually not building leverage. You're accumulating complexity without structure. So you basically have a mountain of prompts without the reasoning and decision behind, and you have to revise each one of them individually in order to do an update. And you can't guarantee that each revision works as intended. The issue here isn't that prompt-centric system can't scale output, but it can't scale control, consistency and understanding. And that is what actually matters in agency environments. So let's look at our three problems. The second revision problem, the hidden knowledge debt, and the scaling illusion. They all three come from the same root cause, that too much logic is collapsed into one instruction. And this is not a people problem. It's not about experience or skill or writing better prompts. It's an architectural problem. Because when workflows aren't built for sharing, for changing, for iteration, they become very fragile during real work. So when someone changes something, it triggers a complete mess. So if this is what a ceiling looks like for a prompt-centric workflow, the next question isn't how we write better prompts. It's rather what kind of workflow is built for iteration, for reuse, and for teamwork. In the next video, I want to look at how system-based workflows handle change differently and why they don't run into the same ceilings.